All right, guys, welcome to the closing table. So what I'm going to go through today, we're going to break this up into segments, but the first thing I'm going to touch on is just your first approach when you get into the home. So obviously we're already sitting at the table, but when you guys get to the door, it's going to be really similar to knocking on a door, where you're going to knock, take a few steps back, act like you're busy, be on your phone or something like that. When the homeowner opens the door, that's when you're going to make really good eye contact, introduce yourself, usually shake their hand at that point and start walking into the home. The first question I always ask is, do you want me to keep my shoes on or kick them off? That'll give you actually a gauge of kind of like the personality type of the homeowner. If they say keep them on, not a big deal, it's probably going to be a little bit more laid back. If they do want you to kick them off, it's probably going to be a little bit more structured, a little more analytical. And then as we walk into the home, I usually just say, where do you guys want to sit down? What's more comfortable? And just kind of leave it open for them. They'll either pick like a dining table, which is what I prefer, or a couch. Wherever you guys sit down at, just make sure that you're relaxed. That's a really important part. If you guys are constantly up on your elbows, that's going to give off the impression that you're trying to be forward, pushy. You're kind of up in their face. So you want to make sure that no matter what, you're leaned back, you're relaxed, and you can transition between the two, of course. But for the most part, we want to be extremely laid back so that the customer doesn't feel pressured. So moving into the beginning of the pitch, there's a few things that I do right at the very beginning, and we'll jump into the role play. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to show you guys how I do it, and then we'll recap that. So one of the first things I do is obviously rapport building. This has to be really natural, so make sure you're asking genuine questions, you're being genuine. It should feel like you're making a friend. If it feels awkward and weird, maybe pump the brakes on the rapport building, get started on the pitch, and then go back to that in just a second. But you do want to make sure that you understand a little bit about the person, where they're from, why they're here, what they like. Usually people will have things in their homes that you can comment on or bring up. Whatever you do, just make sure it's genuine and make sure that you're not just forcing it on them. So once you get through the rapport building phase, you're going to want to hop into the pre-presentation is kind of how I think of it. So the first thing I do is I set expectations with the customer. I'm going to tell them what we're going to do. I'm going to tell them why I'm going to do it. The why is the most important part that most people forget. And then we're going to go through that quick presentation, and then we're going to get into the proposal and then the close. Something to preface this with is you guys will notice that I use a lot of soft closing, and that's super important. It's like priming the pump so that when you get to the end of the close, there's not that weird, awkward sales tension. And you guys have soft closed them throughout. The last thing I'll touch on before we hop into the role play is that you want to focus on 3 10s, okay? Is the customer closed on you? Are they a 10 out of 10 on you? Do they trust you, respect you, think you're the expert? Number 2 is, are they a 10 out of 10 on the company? So do they love Bright? Do they understand why Bright is important? Do they understand whoever the installer is, why they're the best option for them? Do they understand the equipment and the warranties really, really well? And then the third thing is the product. Do they understand net metering? Do they understand why solar is a smart move? Do they understand the finance options and how they're going to save money in the long run?